It's not a riot against, the government or the police. It's more kind of riot against the algorithm.
Yeah. It's not angry work, let's put it that way.
But something is kind of going wrong in each of the pictures. Like, for example, the melting painting. It's almost something that would happen in the cartoon pages of a newspaper.
No, absolutely.
Some really expensive thing is kind of melted on the wall. And so when I was going through the dictionary at the word riot, there were actually things like, they were a bit more positive, like a riot of colour. And you were a proper riot at the party last night.
No, exactly.
Like that. So there's all those.
Right.
So it's kind of more aimed at that end of the spectrum than it is at. It's not kind of fighting against.
No, and you can see that in your work.
Anything,
you have to look at your work, and you can see that. I can see where all the work comes from because it is you and nobody else. But it works, and that's what I like about it. It works. There's pieces for everybody. And they will work really well, sort of with mainstream pieces of artwork. I don't know, almost schoolboyish humour about a lot of them, which is that you?
I don't think so, but I liked listening to comedians a lot, and comedians always talk about their kind of craft being cut up into these things called bits, like whether it's a sketch or an individual joke or something. This is kind of my equivalent, I'd say, is it gets kind of forged into a painting or something like something sculptural
and it awakens the senses, doesn't it? That's what I like, is you have to look twice.
And it's very like bold, bright primary colours, right, you're hit with.
Yeah.
And you're kind of coming back to the logo of things.
What's this about then?
Well, because it's an instrument. There's that story, I think Robert Johnson, who was the kind of guitar player that sold his soul to the devil at midnight and suddenly became the best at that thing the world had ever seen overnight.
Yes, and the devil's always lurking there, ready to take your soul.
Yeah, but it's kind of been hit with this whitewash, like almost like it was almost invisible before, and you had to kind of throw some paint on it for it to become see. Like if you're like throwing a sheet over something that was invisible.
Yeah.
Suddenly being done. But this is probably one of the first ones as well that's comprised solely of found objects, as opposed to taking a canvas and trying to manipulate that in a way. Because it's the first thing where I'm literally just bolting things together, turning into this instrument. That has probably come from living in Bristol for however long I have now, 12 years or so. It's a kind of very green conscious city, so then henceforth the kind of upcycling, recycling part of the process, but it's also, covered in discarded items and under layers of spray paint, So in that sense, it's sort of taken out of your hands what the final thing will be, because the story is the driver of the story, and the objects are the driver of what it will end up looking like.
Of course.
And I suppose you just have to mediate that to the point where it doesn't look stupid. Painting is quite good because you're kind of one brushstroke away from genius all the time, but the agony is that you're always one brushstroke away from looking like a complete fool. Yeah. So the threshold there is
it's
quite
a fine line, isn't it? For sure, absolutely.
And if I can kind of keep it on the wall in the house and walk past it every day and not want to change something, then I kind of that's when it's reached its thing.
Yeah, it's done. And do you have a favourite piece of your own work?
I do.
And why?
Yeah, definitely not. I don't. Other people seem to have their favourites quite convincingly. So I'd be intrigued to see what people go for when they're hearing this going.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you're right there, because people just see something that makes them chuckle or make them think within your work. Yeah. Well, I know my favourite.
What's that?
As a painter, my favourite is always going to be
Oh, those brushes.
bouquet of brushes. 'Cause
Yeah.
I can keep you in business for a lot of that. And it is an awful thing. And I know every artist is thinking, "Oh God, these poor brushes. I should never get around to them." But you've actually done something brilliantly with it. So.
Yeah, I think I was looking at Manet's picture of like wrapped up asparagus as well.
You're right. Yes. Yeah.
So it's kind of like a hybrid between that and a bunch of flowers.
And that's the lovely thing about your work is there's some historical reference as well in all of them, which works really, really, really well. I think. Again, you can see the historical references. I mean, even the thickness of the oil paint, and of course there's the detailing in the frame as well, which is.
But it's very like loose and suggestive.
Oh, no, absolutely. Which again is why it works. Anything else, I think if you'd had that in gold, it would have been too obvious, and it would have been too, accessible in that state. As it is. I love it. It's just cheeky. It's absolutely cheeky.
Yes, there's two others at the moment, but I feel like this as a series has a lot of legs. Especially because each one of the brushes as well kind of ends up drying with a slightly different colour on it. So you put them together and it kind of does resemble this bouquet of...
So are you tempted then to actually deliberately get a brush and put one of these ones that you have either been given or...
I do both that stuff. Like they're all ones that I've used that I've just ended up leaving there for whatever reason covered in the paint.
Okay.
So the paint on all of these brushes is on a different paint somewhere.
Yeah.
Because even in museums, for example, when someone's having like a huge retrospective on like a body of work, they'll include things like some of the equipment that they used, letters between different people. Bring the stuff out of that glass box and kind of in the picture itself.
Absolutely.
That's what's kind of going on.
Absolutely. And again, it's seriously humorous. Seriously.
They're about the right size as well, aren't they, to just kind of pick up and pick up and hand over.
Yeah. And how important then is to, sort of what is reference to, because you have dukes and all the work. It's Titanic, I presume, is it?
I suppose you could look at it like that for sure. I mean, when you start looking at kind of painters throughout time, there's always a signature on there somewhere. On some things, I think that the signature kind of takes away from the picture quite a bit.
Yeah.
So on some of them, I've kind of gone extra hard on the signature to kind of, which on this one, it's almost the thing that stands out the most.
Yeah. It's considered, isn't it? It's considered as just sort of like each piece is individual and it's but that works.
Because it's normally, I guess, like bottom right hand corner is the place.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of, especially when you see, especially in fashion and stuff now, about because they, clothes normally have like a brand on them somewhere. And these days you see people moving that around and playing with it in all sorts of different ways now, rather than it just being the default position. This is Man in Tuxedo, and I'm sure you can guess why I gave it that name. But it's probably the third or fourth iteration of this picture. So, like I was saying earlier about having things on just like hanging up on the walls in your house instead of them being away somewhere in a studio, you're constantly thinking of things to kind of take away to make the picture better, and in some ways kind of give it an update. And I suppose you could kind of compare that to, this kind of constant thing now with, say, like phones and computers and stuff, about them always wanting the kind of next update to kind of improve them, or they seem to kind of happen with that regularity. So it could be that the picture you're looking at now is maybe the 20th iteration of say putting it out there.
Yeah.
But it's just never quite hit the right notes. So this is one of 4 portrait head and shoulders type pictures, each representing a season. This is awesome, with the rain mac and it's all its cords tied tightly around someone's face. There were a few storms this year, of course, that you'd see people kind of doing this. Your cords have even become part of their face, the very fabric of their face, and tied to different bits of the hood to keep it tied down.
Oval portraiture, historical again, with a little hint of some other artists that we know.
Yeah, I mean, like lots of people who huge Picasso fan, there's certainly a nod to that type of, breaking the face apart and kind of.
Absolutely, and it's almost like a puzzle as well, because you're looking at the the cords that are on the raincoat, and I've just noticed coming down here as well, and it is coming through like an old maze.
Yeah.
So there's something you can see. It's different every time you look at it.
Yeah. I mean, this person's literally tying themselves in knots.
Yeah. I can see. And the more you look, the more you can see that.
So am I going to get the role in the film?
Yeah,
you look so much like a director right now.
Yeah, do I?
Yeah. You're like, here's my Oscar. Trust my judgment.
Yeah, I should give this to you. Yeah. You got the part. You've got the part. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun doing that. You think just like two objects, and then you.
Oh God, absolutely.
But then of course
it's a bloody work of art, and it is. It's just like being,